Crime and Punishment by Fyodor Dostoevsky, translated by Constance Garrett. Mr. Razumihin, cried Porfiry Petrovich, seeming glad of a question from Raskolnikov, who had till then been silent. But I had to put Mr. Razumihin off. 2 is company, 3 is none. Mr. Razumihin is not the right man. Besides, he is an outsider. He came running to me with a pale face, but never mind him. Why bring him in? To return to Nikolay. Would you like to know what sort of a type he is? How I understand him? That is, to begin with, he is still a child and not exactly a coward, but something by way of an artist. Really, don't laugh at me describing him so. He is innocent and responsive to influence. He has a heart and is a fantastic fellow. He sings and dances, he tells stories, they say, so that people come from other villages to hear him. He attends school too and laughs till he cries if you hold up a finger to him. He will drink himself senseless, not as a regular vice, but at times when people treat him like a child. And he stole too, then, without knowing it himself, for how can it be stealing if one picks it up? And do you know he is an old believer, or rather a dissenter? There have been wanderers in his family, and he was for 2 years in his village under the spiritual guidance of a certain elder. I learnt all this from Nikolay and from his fellow villagers. And what's more, he wanted to run into the wilderness. He was full of fervor, prayed at night, read the old books, the true ones, and read himself crazy. Petersburg had a great effect on him, especially the women and the wine. He responds to everything and he forgot the elder and all that. I learned that an artist here took a fancy to him and used to go and see him, and now this business came upon him. Well, he was frightened. He tried to hang himself. He ran away. How can one get over the idea the people have of the Russian legal proceedings? The very word trial frightens some of them. Whose fault is it? We shall see what the new juries will do. God grant they do good. Well, in prison, it seems, he remembered the venerable elder. The Bible, too, made its appearance again. Do you know, Rodion Romanovich, the force of the word suffering among some of these people? It's not a question of suffering for someone's benefit, but simply one must suffer. If they suffer at the hands of the authorities, so much the better. In my time, there was a very meek and mild prisoner who spent a whole year in prison, always reading his Bible on the stove at night. And he read himself crazy, and so crazy. Do you know that one day, apropos of nothing, he seized a brick and flung it at his governor, though he had done him no harm. And the way he threw it too, aimed it a yard on one side on purpose, for fear of hunting him. Well, we know what happens to a prisoner who assaults an officer with a weapon, and so he took his suffering. So I suspect now that Nikolay wants to take suffering or something of the sort. I know it for certain from facts indeed, only he doesn't know that I know. What, you don't admit that there are such fantastic people among the peasants, lots of them. The elder now has begun influencing him, specially since he tried to hang himself. But he'll come and tell me all himself. You think he'll hold out? Wait a bit. He'll take his words back. I'm waiting from hour to hour for him to come and abjure his evidence. I have come to like that Nikolay and am studying him in detail. And what do you think? He answered me very plausibly on some points. He obviously had collected some evidence and prepared himself cleverly. But on other points, He is simply at sea, knows nothing and doesn't even suspect that he doesn't know. No, Rodion Romanovich, Nikolay doesn't come in. This is a fantastic, gloomy business, a modern case, an incident of today when the heart of man is troubled, when the phrase is quoted that blood renews, when comfort is preached as the aim of life. Here we have bookish dreams, a heart unhinged by theories. Here we see resolution in the first stage, but resolution of a special kind. He resolved to do it like jumping over a precipice or from a bell tower, and his legs shook as he went to the crime. He forgot to shut the door after him and murdered two people for a theory. He committed the murder and couldn't take the money, and what he did manage to snatch up, he hid under a stone. It wasn't enough for him to suffer agony behind the door while they battered at the door and rung the bell. No, he had to go to the empty lodging, half delirious, to recall the bell ringing. He wanted to feel the cold shiver over again. Well, that we grant was through illness. But consider this, he is a murderer, but looks upon himself as an honest man, despises others, poses as injured innocence. No, that's not the work of Nikolay, my dear Rodion Romanovich. All that had been said before had sounded so like a recantation that these words were too great a shock. Raskolnikov shuddered as though he had been stabbed. Then, who then is the murderer? He asked in a breathless voice, unable to restrain himself. Porfiry Petrovitch sank back in his chair as though he were amazed at the question. Who is the murderer? He repeated, as though unable to believe his ears. Why, you, Rodion Romanovich, you are the murderer. He added almost in a whisper, in a voice of genuine conviction. Raskolnikov leapt from the sofa, stood up for a few seconds, and sat down again without uttering a word. His face twitched convulsively. Your lip is twitching just as it did before, Porfiry Petrovitch observed almost sympathetically. You've been misunderstanding me, I think, Rodion Romanovich, he added after a brief pause. That's why you are so surprised. I came on purpose to tell you everything and deal openly with you. It was not I, it was not I murdered her. Raskolnikov whispered like a frightened child caught in the act. No, it was you, Rodion Romanovich, and no one else, Porfiry whispered sternly with conviction. They were both silent, and the silence lasted strangely long, about 10 minutes. Raskolnikov put his elbow on the table and passed his fingers through his hair. Porfiry Petrovitch sat quietly waiting. Suddenly, Raskolnikov looked scornfully at Porfiry. You are at your old tricks again, Porfiry Petrovitch. Your old method again. I wonder you don't get sick of it. Oh, stop that. What does that matter now? It would be a different matter if there were witness present. But we are whispering alone. You see yourself that I have not come to chase and capture you here like a hare. Whether you confess it or not is nothing to me now. For myself, I am convinced without it. If so, what did you come for? Raskolnikov asked irritably. I ask you the same question again. If you consider me guilty, why don't you take me to prison? Oh, that's your question. I will answer you, point for point. In the first place, to arrest you so directly is not to my interest. How so? If you are convinced, you ought. What if I am convinced? That's only my dream for the time. Why should I put you in safety? You know, that's it. Since you ask me to do it, if I confront you with that workman, for instance, and you say to him, were you drunk or not? Who saw me with you? I simply took you to be drunk and you were drunk too. Well, What could I answer, especially as your story is a more likely one than his? For there's nothing but psychology to support his evidence. That's almost unseemly with his ugly mug. While you hit the mark exactly, for the rascal is an inveterate drunkard and notoriously so. And I have myself admitted candidly several times already that psychology can be taken in two ways, and that the second way is stronger and looks far more plausible. And that apart from that, I have as yet nothing against you. And though I shall put you in prison, and indeed have come quite contrary to etiquette, to inform you of it beforehand, yet I tell you frankly, also contrary to etiquette, that it won't be to my advantage. Well, secondly, I've come to you because. Yes, secondly, Raskolnikov was listening breathlessly. Because, as you told just now, I consider I owe you an explanation. I don't want you to look upon me as a monster, as I have a genuine liking for you. You may believe me or not. And in the third place, I've come to you with the direct and open proposition that you should surrender and confess. It will be infinitely more to your advantage and to my advantage too, for my task will be done. Well, is this open on my part or not? Raskolnikov thought for a minute. Listen, Porfiry Petrovitch, you said just now you have nothing but psychology to go on. Yet now you've gone on mathematics. Well, what if you are mistaken yourself now? No, Rodion Romanovich, I'm not mistaken. I have a little fact even then. Providence sent it to me. What little fact? I won't tell you what, Rodion Romanovich, and in any case, I haven't the right to put it off any longer. I must arrest you. So think it over. It makes no difference to me now, and so I speak only for your sake. Believe me, it will be better, Rodion Romanovich. Raskolnikov smiled malignantly. That's not simply ridiculous, it's positively shameless. Why, even if I were guilty, which I don't admit, what reason should I have to confess when you tell me yourself that I shall be in a greater safety in prison? Ah, Rodion Romanovich, don't put too much faith in words. Perhaps prison will not be altogether a restful place. That's only theory and my theory. And what authority am I for you? Perhaps, too, even now I am hiding something from you. I can't lay bare everything. And how can you ask what advantage? Don't you know how it would lessen your sentence? You would be confessing at a moment when another man has taken the crime on himself and so has muddled the whole case. Consider that. I swear before God that I will so arrange that your confession shall come as a complete surprise. We will make a clean sweep of all these psychological points of a suspicion against you, so that your crime will appear to have been something like an aberration. For in truth, it was an aberration. I am an honest man, Rodion Romanovich, and will keep my word. Raskolnikov maintained a mournful silence and let his head sink dejectedly. He pondered a long while and at last smiled again, but his smile was sad and gentle. No, he said, apparently abandoning all attempt to keep his appearances with Porphyry. It's not worth it. I don't care about lessening the sentence. It's just what I was afraid of. Porphyry cried warmly and, as it seemed, involuntarily. That's just what I feared, that you won't care about the mitigation of sentence. Raskolnikov looked sadly and expressively at him. Ah, don't disdain life, Porphyry went on. You have a great deal of it still before you. How can you say you don't want a mitigation of sentence? You are an impatient fellow. A great deal of what lies before me. Of life? What sort of prophet are you? Do you know much about it? Seek and ye shall find. This may be God's means for bringing you to Him, and it's not forever, the bondage. The time will be shortened, laughed Raskolnikov. Why? Is it the bourgeois disgrace you are afraid of? It may be that you are afraid of it without knowing it, because you are young. But anyway, you shouldn't be afraid of giving yourself up and confessing. Ah, hang it, Raskolnikov whispered with loathing and contempt, as though he did not want to speak aloud. He got up again as though he meant to go away, but sat down again in evident despair. Hang it if you like. You've lost faith and you think that I am grossly flattering you. But how long has your life been? How much do you understand? You made up a theory and then were ashamed that it broke down and turned out to be not at all original. It turned out something base. That's true, but you are not hopelessly base. But by no means so base. At least you didn't deceive yourself for long. You were straight to the furthest point at one bound. How do I regard you? I regard you as one of those men who would stand and smile at their torturer while he cuts their entrails out. If only they had found faith or God. Find it and you will live. You have long needed a change of air. Suffering, too, is a good thing. Suffer. Maybe Nicolay is right in wanting to suffer. I know you don't believe in it. But don't be overwise. Fling yourself straight into life without deliberation. Don't be afraid. The flood will bear you to the bank and set you safe on your feet again. What bank? How can I tell? I only believe that you have long life before you. I know that you take all my words now for a set speech prepared beforehand, but maybe you will remember them after. They may be of use sometime. That's why I speak. It's as well that you only killed the old woman. If you'd invented another theory, you might perhaps have done something 1,000 times more hideous. You ought to thank God, perhaps. How do you know? Perhaps God is saving you for something. But keep a good heart and have less fear. Are you afraid of the great expiation before you? No, it would be shameful to be afraid of it. Since you have taken such a step, you must harden your heart. There is a justice in it. You must fulfill the demands of justice. I know that you don't believe it, but indeed, life will bring you through. You will live it down in time. What you need now is fresh air. Fresh air. Fresh air. Raskolnikov positively startled. But who are you? What prophet are you? From the height of what majestic calm do you proclaim these words of wisdom? Who am I? I am a man of nothing of to hope for. That's all. A man perhaps of feeling and sympathy, maybe of some knowledge too. But my day is over. But you are a different matter. There is life waiting for you. Though, who knows? Maybe your life too will pass off in smoke and come to nothing. Come, what does it matter that you will pass into another class of men? It's not comfort you regret with your heart. What of it that perhaps no one will see for so long? It's not time, but yourself that will decide that. Be the sun, and all will see you. The sun has before all to be seen to be the sun. Why are you smiling again? At my being such a shiller. I bet you're imagining that I'm trying to get round you by flattery. Well, perhaps I am. Perhaps you'd better not believe my word. Perhaps you'd better never believe it altogether. I'm made that way, I confess it. But let me add, you can judge for yourself, I think, how far I am a base sort of man and how far I am honest. When do you mean to arrest me? Well, I can let you walk about another day or two. Think it over, my dear fellow, and pray to God. It's more in your interest, believe me. No, you won't run away. A peasant would run away. A fashionable dissenter would run away. The flunky of another man's thought. For you've only to show him the end of your little finger, and he'll be ready to believe in anything for the rest of his life. But you've ceased to believe in your theory already. What will you run away with? And what would you do in hiding? It would be hateful and difficult for you. And what you need more than anything in life is a definite position, an atmosphere to suit you. And what sort of atmosphere would you have? If you ran away, you'd come back to yourself. You can't get on without us. And if I put you in prison, say you've been there a month or 2 or 3, remember my word. You'll confess of yourself and perhaps to your own surprise. You won't know an hour beforehand that you are coming with a confession. I'm convinced that you will decide to take your suffering. You don't believe my words now, but you'll come to it of yourself. For suffering, Rodion Romanovich, is a great thing. Never mind my having grown fat. I know all the same. Don't laugh at it. There's an idea in suffering. Nikolay is right. No, you won't run away, Rodion Romanovich. Raskolnikov got up and took his cap. Porfiry also rose. Are you going for a walk? The evening will be fine if only we don't have a storm. Though it would be a great thing to freshen the air. He too took his cap. Porfiry Petrovitch, please don't take up the notion that I have confessed to you today, Raskolnikov pronounced with sullen insistence. You are a strange man and I have listened to you from simple curiosity. But I have admitted nothing. Remember that. Oh, I know that. I'll remember. Look at him. He is trembling. Don't be uneasy, my dear fellow. Have it your own way. Walk about a bit. You won't be able to walk too far. If anything, perhaps, I have one request to make of you, he added, dropping his voice. It's an awkward one, but important. If anything were to happen, though I don't believe in it and think you quite incapable of it, yet in case you were taken during these 40 or 50 hours with the notion of putting an end to the business in some other way, in some fantastic fashion, laying hands on yourself. It's an absurd proposition, but you must forgive me for it. Do leave a brief but precise note, only 2 lines, and mention the stone. It will be more generous. Come, till we meet. Good thoughts and sound decisions to you. Porfiry went out, stooping and avoiding looking at Raskolnikov. The latter went to the window and waited with irritable impatience till he calculated that Porfiry had reached the street and moved away. Then he too went hurriedly out of the room. Chapter 3. He hurried to Svidrigailov. What he had to hope from that man he did not know, but that man had some hidden power over him. Having once recognized this, he could not rest, and now the time had come. On the way, one question particularly worried him. Had Svidrigailov been to Porfiry's? As far as he could judge, he would swear to it that he had not. He pondered again and again, went over Porfiry's visit. No, he hadn't been. Of course he hadn't. But if he had not been yet, would he go? Meanwhile, for the present he fancied he couldn't. Why? He could not have explained, but if he could, he would not have wasted much thought over it at that moment. It all worried him, and at the same time he could not attend to it. Strange to say, none would have believed it perhaps, but he only felt a faint vague anxiety about his immediate future. Another much more important anxiety tormented him. It concerned himself, but in a different, more vital way. Moreover, he was conscious of immense moral fatigue, though his mind was working better that morning than it had done of late. And was it worthwhile, after all that had happened, to contend with these new trivial difficulties? Was it worthwhile, for instance, to maneuver that Svidrigailov should not go to Porphyry's? Was it worthwhile to investigate, to ascertain the facts, to waste time over anyone like Svidrigailov? Oh, how sick he was of it all. And yet he was hastening to Svidrigalov's. Could he be expecting something new from him, information or means of escape? Men will catch at straws. Was it destiny or some instinct bringing them together? Perhaps it was only fatigue, despair. Perhaps it was not Svidrigailov but some other whom he needed. Svidrigailov had simply presented himself by chance. Sonia? But what should he go to Sonia for now? To beg her tears again? He was afraid of Sonia too. Sonia stood before him as an irrevocable sentence. He must go his own way or hers. At that moment, specially, he did not feel equal to seeing her. No, would it not be better to try Svidrigailov? And he could not help inwardly owning that he had long felt that he must see him for some reason. But what could they have in common? Their very ill doing could not be of the same kind. The man, moreover, was very unpleasant, evidently depraved, undoubtedly cunning and deceitful, possibly malignant. Such stories were told about him. It is true he was befriending Katerina Ivanova's children, but who could tell that what motive and what it meant? The man always had some design, some project. There was another thought which had been continually hovering of late about Raskolnikov's mind and causing him great uneasiness. It was so painful that he made distinct efforts to get rid of it. He sometimes thought that Svidrigailov was dodging his footsteps. Svidrigailov had found out his secret and had designs on Donia. What if he had them still? Wasn't it practical, certain that he had? And what if, having learned his secret and so having gained power over him, he were to use it as a weapon against Donia? This idea sometimes even tormented his dreams, but it had never presented itself so vividly to him as on his way to Svidrigailov's. The very thought moved him to gloomy rage. To begin with, this would transform everything, even his own position. He would have at once to confess his secret to Donia. Would he have to give himself up, perhaps to prevent Donia from taking some rash step? The letter. This morning, Donia had received a letter. From whom could she get letters in Petersburg? Lucihin? Perhaps. It's true, Razumihin was there to protect her, but Razumihin knew nothing of the position. Perhaps it was his duty to tell Razumihin. He thought of it with repugnance. In any case, he must see Svidrigailov as soon as possible, he decided finally. Thank God, the details of the interview were of little consequence. If only he could get at the root of the matter. But if Svidrigailov were capable, if he were intriguing against Donia, then Raskolnikov was so exhausted by what he had passed through that month that he could not decide anything. He could only decide such questions in one way. Then I shall kill him, he thought in cold despair. A sudden anguish oppressed his heart. He stood still in the middle of the street and began looking about to see where he was and which way he was going. He found himself in X, Prospect 30 or 40 paces from the Haymarket through which he had come. The whole second story of the house on the left was used as a tavern. All the windows were wide open, judging from the figures moving at the windows. The rooms were full to overflowing. There were sounds of singing, of clarinet and violin, and the boom of a Turkish drum. He could hear women shrieking. He was about to turn back, wondering why he had to come here. Prospect. When suddenly at one of the end windows he saw Svidrigailov sitting at a tea table right in the open window with a pipe in his mouth. Raskolnikov was dreadfully taken aback, almost terrified. Svidrigailov was silently watching and scrutinizing him, and what struck Raskolnikov at once seemed to be the meaning to get up and slip away unobserved. Raskolnikov at once pretended not to have seen him, but to be looking absent-mindedly away. While he watched him out of the corner of his eye, his heart was beating violently. Yet it was evident that Svidrigailov did not want to be seen. He took the pipe out of his mouth and was at the point of concealing himself. But as he got up and moved back his chair, he seemed to have become suddenly aware that Raskolnikov had seen him and was watching him. What had passed between them was much the same as what happened at their first meeting in Raskolnikov's room. A sly smile came into Svidrigailov's face and grew broader and broader. Each knew that he was seen and watched by the other. At last, Svidrigailov broke into a loud laugh. "Well, well, come in if you want me. I'm here," he shouted from the window. Raskolnikov went up into the tavern. He found Svidrigailov in a tiny back room adjoining the saloon, in which merchants, clerks, and numbers of people of all sorts were drinking tea at 20 little tables to the desperate bawling of a chorus of singers. The click of billiard balls could be heard in the distance. On the table before Svidrigailov stood an open bottle and a glass half full of champagne. In the room he found also a boy with a little hand organ, a healthy-looking red-cheeked girl of 18, wearing a tucked up striped skirt, and a Tyrolese hat with ribbons. In spite of the chorus in the other room, she was singing some servants' hall song in a rather husky contralto to the accompaniment of the organ. "Come, that's enough." Svidrigailov stopped her at Raskolnikov's entrance. The girl at once broke off and stood waiting respectfully. She had sung her guttural rhymes, too, with a serious and respectful expression in her face. "Hey, Philippe, a glass," shouted Svidrigailov. "I won't drink anything," said Raskolnikov. "As you like. I didn't mean it for you. Drink." "I don't want anything more today. You can go." He poured out a glass full for her and laid down a yellow note. Katya drank off her glass of wine as women do, without putting it down in 20 gulps, took the note and kissed Svidrigailov's hand, which he allowed quite seriously. She went out of the room, and the boy trailed after her with her organ. Both had been brought in from the street. Svidrigailov had not been a week in Petersburg, but everything about him was already, so to speak, on the patriarchal footing. The waiter, Philippe, was by now an old friend and very obsequious. The door leading to the saloon had a lock on it. Svidrigailov was at home in this room and perhaps spent whole days in it. The tavern was dirty and wretched, not even second-rate. "I was going to see you and looking for you," Raskolnikov began, "but I don't know what made me turn from the Haymarket to here. Prospect, just now. I never take this turning. I turn to the right from the Haymarket, and this isn't the way to you. I simply turned, and here you are. It is strange. Why don't you say at once, 'It's a miracle'?" because it may be only chance. Oh, that's the way with all you folk, laughed Svidrigailov. You won't admit it, even if you do inwardly believe it a miracle. Here you say that it may be only chance, and what cowards they all are here. About having an opinion of their own, you can't fancy, Rodion Romanovich. I don't mean you. You have an opinion of your own and are not afraid to have it. That's how it was. You attracted my curiosity. Nothing else. Well, that's enough, you know. Svidrigailov was obviously exhilarated, but only slightly so. He had not had more than half a glass of wine. I fancy you came to see me before you knew that I was capable of having what you call an opinion of my own, observed Raskolnikov. Oh, well, it was a different matter. Everyone has his own plans. And apropos of the miracle, let me tell you that I think you have been asleep for the last 2 or 3 days. I told you of this tavern myself. There is no miracle in your coming straight here. I explained the way myself, told you where it was, and the hours you could find me here. Do you remember? I don't remember, answered Raskolnikov with surprise. I believe you. I told you twice. The address has been stamped mechanically on your mind. You turned this way mechanically and yet precisely according to the direction, though you are not aware of it. When I told you then, I hardly hoped you understood me. You give yourself away too much, Rodion Romanovich. And another thing, I'm convinced there are lots of people in Petersburg who talk to themselves as they walk. This is a town of crazy people. If only we had scientific men, doctors, lawyers, and philosophers, might make most valuable investigations in Petersburg, each in his own line. There are few places where there are so many gloomy, strong, and queer influences on the soul of man as in Petersburg. The mere influences of climate mean so much, and it's the administrative center of the Russian state, and its character must be reflected on the whole country. But that is neither here nor there now. The point is that I have several times watched you. You walk out of your house holding your head high. 20 paces from home, you let it sink and fold your hands behind your back. You look and evidently see nothing before nor beside you. At last, you begin moving your lips and talking to yourself, and sometimes you wave one hand and declaim, and at last stand still in the middle of the road. That's not at all the thing. Someone may be watching you besides me, and it won't do you any good. It's nothing really to do with me. I can't cure you, but of course, you understand me. Do you know that I am being followed? Asked Raskolnikov, looking inquisitively at him. No, I know nothing about it, said Svidrigailov, seeming surprised. Well then, let us leave me alone, Raskolnikov muttered, frowning. Very good, let us leave you alone. You had better tell me if you come here to drink and directed me twice to come here to you. Why did you hide and try to get away just now when I looked at the window from the street? I saw it. Ah, why was it you lay on your sofa with closed eyes and pretended to be asleep, though you were wide awake while I stood in your doorway? I saw it. I may have had reasons, that yourself. And I may have had my reasons, though you don't know them. Raskolnikov dropped his right elbow on the table, leaned his chin in his fingers of his right hand, and stared intently at Svidrigailov. For a full minute he scrutinized his face, which had impressed him before. It was a strange face like a mask, white and red, with bright red lips, with flaxen beard and still thick flaxen hair. His eyes were somehow too blue, and their expression somehow too heavy, and fixed. There was something awfully unpleasant in that handsome face, which looked so wonderfully young for his age. Svidrigailov was smartly dressed in light summer clothes and was particularly dainty in his linen. He wore a huge ring with a precious stone in it.